Teams bust players more than players bust teams. How are the Tennessee Titans built to support number one pick Cam Ward in his rookie season? We're going to explore that today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much.
Joe, happy Monday. Happy first Monday in May. And I don't know about you or where you're at, but I thought the saying was supposed to be April showers, bring May flowers, and it's a whole lot of showers here for the start of May where I'm at.
No precipitation in the
a lot of precipitation.
What do you call it? You call it this something I never
Mid-Atlantic?
The mid no, you call it DMV, Mid-Atlantic.
No,
See?
DMV is where you go to get your license.
Yeah, it was Delaware, Maryland, Virginia.
Yeah, it's an unserious. It's the DC.
Oh, okay. So you don't acknowledge it. All right. So I wasn't crazy. You just don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, I don't acknowledge because I'm not like Southern Delaware. I'm Northern Delaware.
Oh, okay.
So I'm much more like
different
Philadelphia area.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize the differences, but now I've been informed.
It's all 10 square miles of Delaware. It makes a big difference where you're at.
So the Tennessee Titans had the number one pick in the 2025 NFL draft. They selected Cam Ward.
They did.
The Nashville Predators have an 11.5% chance of earning the number one pick in the NHL draft. The lottery is tonight on that. That's the third best odds behind the San Jose Sharks and the Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, just tying it all together here. Significant day in Nashville sports. Yeah, maybe the number one pick in both leagues here. So our objective today and tomorrow is going to be assessing these first round rookie quarterback situations. Cam Ward today, Jackson Dart tomorrow with the Giants. We've been doing this for how long, Kyle?
Since 21. First time we did it was 2021 with the 5 quarterback: Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. Who am I forgetting? Zach Wilson. Dolphins legend Zach Wilson.
Right.
So yeah, we've been doing this quite some time and looking at kind of 6 different dynamics within the situation for a young quarterback, from coaching, and that's not just head coach, but also assistant coaches and support staff, the other quarterbacks in the quarterback room, the pass catchers that they have to work with, and the offensive line group around that quarterback, the run game to support the stress on the passing game, and the defense, kind of the things that help you play complementary football.
Great. I'm on a scale of 1 to 5. And 1 is basically we find that to be a fail. 5 is excellent. It's perfect. It's exactly what you want. 3 is average. 4 is above average. 2 is below average. So we'll give every single category a grade. We'll see how it stacks up.
You know what really grinds my gears about this? We just got done talking about how the correlation between the wins and how well we've graded the situation over the past 5 years. It regressed a little bit this past year because Jaden Daniels, we did not think highly of that situation. He won 12 games, was phenomenal and transcendent, right? The correlation would be a lot better if Trey Lance played any football games. Because we had Trey Lance for you. Your best 3 situations you graded was Trey Lance 2023, Mac Jones 2021, and Trey Lance 2021. Trey Lance started 2 games in that stretch, has 2 of the top 3 spots. San Francisco in those seasons won 12 and 10 games.
Well, and I think even that Mac Jones in 2021 with such a high grade, they went 10-7, went to the playoffs. I think that speaks to that situation and how it was able to support Mac Jones on a playoff run, who is an afterthought as a quarterback in the league right now.
And then we both had last year's highest graded situation was Michael Penix. But then the Vikings were the second highest situation for both of us. And that team won 14 football games and McCarthy didn't play. So before this past year, there was a statistically significant relationship between the two. It's probably less strong now because we both, let's be honest, we whiffed on Jaden Day. But it's more about presenting the information, trying to put it on a historical scale. Last generation? Is it fair to call 5 years of first-round quarterbacks a generation of quarterbacks and the NFL lifespan? Is that a fair thing to say?
I don't know, man. You didn't acknowledge DMV, so I'm nervous to.
Yeah, don't ask me about anything. I'm just here to not get fined. So, start with Cam Ward.
Let's do it.
Coaching.
All right, coaching for Cam Ward, head coach Brian Callahan. Young quarterbacks that he's been a part of the drafting and early development. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, people know about that. How about Tim Tebow back in Denver? He was there his first year in the NFL. They drafted Tim Tebow with their first-round pick, and then a few years later, Brock Osweiler. Nick Foles, your offensive coordinator, second year as an NFL OC, was the Jags passing game coordinator in 23, UNLV's OC in 2022, and then an 8-year stretch as an offensive assistant with the Raiders from 2012 to 2020. Quarterbacks coach here is Bo Hardegree. He is an Adam Gase, Josh McDaniels understudy. That's pretty much been his career, coaching as an assistant under both of those guys. A good stretch with Gase, followed him a couple of places, and the same thing with McDaniels. And then the kind of the X factor here for this coaching staff is senior offensive assistant Mike McCoy, former head coach in the league. I mean, he's been an important offensive coach in the NFL since 2000. What I noticed about all four of these names, they are all West Coast heavy background guys.
Yeah.
And you could tell they probably all speak the same language. They want to run it a certain way. And I think that's fine. It's interesting to insert Cam Ward into this, where I don't know that you go looking at Cam Ward and say, you know what? Timing, route depth, precision. I hope that they learned some lessons with Will Levis last year, and that you can't fit that quarterback into your bucket, right? You need to be able to allow that quarterback to do the things that make them dynamic physically, and that's what you have in Cam Ward. So I think this is a pretty decent group. I gave it a 2.5. I think it's slightly below average. I don't think it's prohibitive, but I'm curious to see how they incorporate Cam Ward and all the things that he does versus, I think, the style of offense they all prefer to run.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I gave this a 3 for a name that you didn't mention on top of the names that you did, Bill Callahan.
The O-line coach, yeah.
And the offensive line coach, who has developed a rightfully sterling reputation for what he does from an offensive line perspective, but he coached the Raiders. He's been an offensive coordinator for successful teams going back 25 years, more than 25 years. You think about the stops he had in Oakland with as the OC there, kind of in the late 90s, and then he was the head coach there in the early 2000s, and then he was in Washington and that offensive line coach in Cleveland before leaving to come with Brian to come coach on his staff. I think beyond what I think that will do for a unit that they've invested a lot in the offensive line, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But that experience, I think, gives that, and McCoy gives me a bolster to say, I think you've got a lot of really valuable experience to go with a young coach that's been a part of some successful pedigree of quarterback development. So I gave it a 3.
All right. 3 for Kyle, 2.5 for me on the coaching. So I have to go here on quarterback room.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will Levis, Brandon Allen, and Tim Boyle. Those are your players in the room with Cam Ward. Brandon Allen, I think, is your redeeming name here, who had a couple of years with Callahan.
Love for Tim Boyle.
Well, Tim Boyle's played for a different team every year for the last 8 years. So, I mean, I guess what's good about those two players as veterans is that neither one is coming in here with any other intention than to support Cam Ward, right? You want to learn the system. Like, you are here for an intentional reason. I wish you had like an Andy Dalton or a Tyrod Taylor type guy, like a quarterback like that, where you really feel like is going to be an asset. Will Levis, I mean, he's still a young player himself. Maybe there's some like benefits of them being younger guys in the league. They can bond over that. But I think your redeeming players are Allen and Boyle. I wish that there was a little bit more of a a more exciting backup here that would embrace that role, that has a little bit more of a resume of success to point to. I give this a 2.
Okay. I will give my thoughts on the other side of the break because I know we got to go to break.
So stick with us. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. You can find the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who will deliver incredible results. Plus, it's fast and easy. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll get multiple qualified candidates to choose from, and it's cost-effective. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers that can help scale your business efficiently. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
I want to start by saying I agree with your synopsis of the room. You like that you have a couple of guys who have been accustomed to being support guys. If I were Tennessee, I don't know, I might want to try to move on from Will Levis if somebody would give me anything for him.
I agree.
Former second-round pick. You've very clearly decided to go in a different direction. He was the man last year. You got 2 years left of a rookie contract as a non-first round pick, so there's no fit. I don't know that I look at Will Levis other than being quote unquote competition for the number 1 overall pick that you used at quarterback. And I don't know that I see any intangible value that he brings to the room because he was in Cam Ward's shoes last year. And obviously did not experience success, right? And so they've made a decision to go in a different direction. I'd be really interested to see if Tennessee would have a dance partner to find somebody that would maybe want to bet on some of the physical potential that Will still has. They kind of think maybe they can break him of some of his wild habits, but the little shoulder devil that tells Will, yeah, do it. Go try that thing. Like, I don't know that I want that guy, that little shoulder devil in the same room as Cam Ward because he's got some of that to him too. So I agree with you with the assessment of the room. I agree with you what I think this room would have benefited from, which is somebody who's had success at the NFL level, but is kind of into a chapter of their career where they know what they are, they know what they aren't. I think it's a backbreaker for Cam? No, but I don't look at this room and say, hey, I think this is an average room for a rookie quarterback to walk into. I gave it a 2 as well.
All right.
Pass catchers.
Pass catchers.
I think the most redeeming things about the pass catcher room, outside of Calvin Ridley, are probably the non-wide receiver names. And I know that they signed Tyler Lockett, and they've added Tyler Lockett to go with Calvin Ridley, and they brought in Van Jefferson, and they used 2 fourth-round picks on wide receivers in DK and Ayamanor, and Treylon Burks is a former first-round pick with pedigree that you're hoping the light bulb's going to come on for, and they UDFA signed Cam's top target at Miami and Xavier Restrepo, so there's a lot of competition in this room. But I like the dynamics of Chigokonkwo and a fourth-round pick in Gunnar Helm, and then Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears for what they are as pass catchers, much more than when I look at the entirety of the wide receiver room, including late-stage Tyler Lockett and what they have to offer.
I think that's a good take. They're really young at tight end. I know Chig's certainly exciting. Real
Josh Wiley, who I did not mention,
second-year player. Kind of a slow developing position to not have a veteran in the room is interesting, but they're pretty loaded with veterans at receiver and some, appealing young players. I like Ayamanor. I thought that was a nice pick in the 4th round. I think DK's got some things to him as well. He does. There's some sleeper elements to him for sure. I like the addition. I think Tyler Lockett was a nice add, for what he is at this point in the process. And both of the backs can catch the football. I don't look at this group of pass catchers and think, my goodness, they're loaded. But I also don't look at it and say to myself, I think this is super deficient. I think it's, Ridley's probably your get a bucket guy. Maybe you wish there was a little bit more. Watch Restrepo be a really nice slot player for them.
I'm sure he will.
Just watch that happen. They got some nice. I think they got some nice little swings there at receiver with him, DK, and Ayu Manor.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What argument could you present to me for Van Jefferson to take snaps over any of those guys?
I can't. Van Jefferson's been an absolute tease since he's walked in the NFL, and he finds himself in situations where there's like a pathway to targets,
and it just
he's
never
always.
happens.
Yeah, he's either hurt or he disappoints. Right? You don't think you can count on anything there.
But if I'm a team that's looking to enter into the next chapter with this next quarterback, I'd rather let all the young guys play who have a chance to develop some chemistry and then be long-term answers for you than what Van Jefferson brings.
What's your number?
I gave this a 2.5. And the reason why is if I look at what is known about the wide receiver room, Tyler's not the player he was when he was at his peak. And I don't think Calvin Ridley's the player that he was when he was at his peak as a football player either. We just got done talking about Van Jefferson. I look at the room and I see a lot of room for growth and upside and potential. But the established players, if I'm listing them out 1 through 3, I think my 1 would be best served as a 2. My 2 would be best served as a 3. And my 3 would probably be best served not playing in Van Jefferson. And then you mentioned the youth at tight end. The back's really the only room where I look at it and say, hey, I really feel like this is a sturdy, like ready to go. This can be a competitive part of the group. Now, there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of things can change, but that player development and the variance that exists because of it is why I gave it a 2.5.
It's exactly the number I had.
Okay.
It's a 2.5, which gets us to the offensive line. And Kyle, we've got 3 paid veterans and 2 top 11 picks on rookie deals that are not rookies.
Big investments.
Yeah. And you mentioned Coach Callahan, Brian Callahan's father, Bill, who's renowned as one of the best in the game for a long time. Our left tackle, Dan Moore, coming over from Pittsburgh, certainly got a healthy payday. And I think you have to give them the benefit of the doubt based on Callahan's resume with offensive line. Was it expensive? Yeah. Is it a player that it felt like Pittsburgh was trying to replace for a number of years? Yeah. But he's coming in with a lot of experience in Pittsburgh in what you would think is a good situation for him. Then you have the former number 11 pick a couple years ago in Peter Skoronski at left guard. Lloyd Cushenberry is a center we both like. Unfortunately, he got hurt last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Nice free agent ad from Denver, big-time leadership guy. Kevin Zeitler, what a pickup, right? Like, just as steady as they come, established veteran in the league. I think you know exactly what you're getting there. And then J.C. Latham, number 7 pick in 2024, getting back to probably his more natural position on the right side. So there's a lot of ceiling here. There's a lot of established floor, I think, with some of the vets that are in the mix. I think this is a pretty good group. Depth. I think obviously I don't think they can really sustain any injuries here. I don't love the depth overall.
Jackson Slater was a huge pick for them because I think he has some real nice potential with Callahan, but you looked at the rest of this group from a depth perspective and it scares the heck out of me, especially with a 35-year-old Kevin Zeitler coming in at right guard.
And they kind of added some like veterans, like not very exciting veterans in terms of depth players as well.
Aliudo, Brendan Jamies, Sam Mustipher.
Yeah. I'm giving this a 3. And part of that is because, I like this. I think it's an average collection of talent. There's some ceiling here. There's going to be a lot on this group. I think there's a lot on this group from a pass pro perspective with Cam Ward and kind of his tendencies to play off script a little bit. And I think they're going to need to lean on it at times to run the football. So I think this is the unit for this team that is really critical to unlocking what Cam Ward needs to be as a rookie.
So full disclosure, Cushenberry's injury was an Achilles in week 9.
It's not great.
So when do you see him and how ready what does he play like when you do see him? Right.
Stuff takes time, man.
So that has me a little leery. I think Brendan Jamies can keep his head above water. But he's got Skoronski, I think, needs to take another leap. I thought he was better last year than he was as a rookie, but I think there's another leap in line there. And obviously a new insert at Zeitler playing at right guard. Latham, I think the thing that worries me about Latham is not the talent, but it's the blend of Cam and his pressure mitigation strategy with the strengths and weaknesses of JC Latham as a player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Dan Moore, I think it has the ceiling of an adequate starter at left tackle. I'm coming in slightly below average, 2.5, with Cushenberry's injury looming large over this and the depth being a problem with a guy, one of your starting 5. You have big time questions about when he's going to be ready and how ready he's going to be when he gets out on the field.
We're close on that one as well. All right, we're going to focus in on the run game and the defense here on the other side of it, folks. Please be sure to stick with us.
The good news is I like these backs. I like these backs to carry the football as well. And then they added a power guy in Kyle Mullings in the 6th round of this year's draft. Former linebacker, converts to running back. We'll just steamroll you and roll you over. Now, he's not going to win any foot races, but you got plenty of pop and juice with Tyjae Spears. Tony Pollard obviously has a documented history of being kind of a more marquee guy. So I think they got a lot of depth at running back. I think this can be something that if they can get that group cohesive playing forward, which is what I think the strength of the unit is when you consider Latham and Zeitler and Skoronski and more. I put Jackson Slater in that bucket as obviously a small school guy who they drafted in the 5th round out of Sacramento State, but I thought he had some pretty nice run game diversity watching him play at the college level and grading him. And Bill Callahan with the cohesiveness that has the chance to provide. I think this has the chance to be an above average run game for Cam Ward to lean on.
Tony Pollard, 3 consecutive seasons, over 1,300 yards, back-to-back years, over 300 touches. People sleep a little bit on Tony Pollard. He's a nice player. Here's my thoughts on this run game. I like the backs. I like the potential of the offensive line. Brian Callahan has never once coached an offense that plays higher than 22nd in yards per carry. Like this, whatever it is, and he's had passing off. Like in Cincinnati, he's had passing offense. Can't run the ball. They should have the O-line talent. They should have the running game, running backs, and Cam Ward is a piece of this running equation. Should help as well. Can they lean on it? Has a Brian Callahan offense ever been able to lean on its running game when surely with a young quarterback that's going to be tested, right? And I worry a little bit about just that I just don't have a resume of successful rushing offenses under Brian Callahan. It's never happened.
I'm not gonna put the sins of Zach Taylor on it though.
Okay, I mean I'm hoping that there's evolution and that there's certainly names in the room that can help unlock this.
Yep.
But I do think that there's a level, like they're going to have to be able to run the ball. I think it's really important. They're going to have to be able to lean on it. Can they? Probably to an extent. I'm coming in at a 3.
Okay.
But I think I have some reasonable questions here.
So score update going into the defense. You currently have this situation graded as a 13 through 5 statistical categories. I have 13.5. And I historically have been the tougher grader out of the 20-something situations we've graded. Joe's been an 18.95. I've been an 18.88. So maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. I don't know.
Maybe.
Although we still got the defense. Maybe we might flip this on its head here. It's not too late for my stingy ways to come back. And I got some questions about this defense.
I thought this defense played well last year, but the fact that there was never complementary football, which includes special teams and offense, it eventually wore down and it broke. Like they'd be competitive, close game. All right, we got a chance. And then it just falls apart, right? There's just a lot of stress that they put on the defense. I think you look at I think there's a lot to like about the group. Their front 3 and their odd fronts looks really strong to me. I like a lot of their secondary, some young players that I really like in Jarvis Brownlee, Roger McCreary. But I look at 2 areas, and one of them being edge rushers. Our best edge rusher is Arden Key. I think Arden Key's a good player. Is that the guy you want to roll out as your best edge rusher? I'm excited about Olu Oladejo, second-round pick as a rookie. There's a curve there. So how quickly can he make an impact here?
He's a guy who only transitioned to play on the edge this past year at UCLA.
Like week 3, he switched.
Yeah.
And then at linebacker, we have Otis Reese, who we have a lot to learn about Otis Reese. And Cody Barton, I always thought of Cody Barton as kind of a cleanup player. I think he played his best ball with Denver last year and like a very aggressive up the field defense. And then he kind of just got to be a cleanup guy. So I think you got some questions here, but also a unit that I don't know that it got worse year over year in terms of personnel. Can the complementary nature year 2 of Coach Wilson on the job here, can that unlock a little bit more from this defense? I think so. But I think complementary football is going to be the most important part of this defense playing to its potential.
You kind of glossed over special teams because it's not the spirit of what we're talking about. John Fossil is a huge add to this coaching staff. So I just wanted to give that a shout out here. And I only thought of it because you mentioned special teams and complementary football last year.
I've never seen a team with more special teams blunders than the Titans last year. It's unbelievable.
I'm a little concerned about the depth of this group as well. I think you're right to call out the kind of the interior trio on the front when they go odd front looks. And Jeffrey Simmons is one of the best interior defenders in football. Sweat was super disruptive and hard to move last year as a rookie, as a second round pick. And then Sebastian Joseph Day. But outside of that, it's a bunch of UDFAs, Keandre Coburn. Right? Like I'm a little concerned about the depth there. You really can't afford a single injury on either side of the trenches with this group, or else I think you're going to have kind of a glaring hole, and it's going to have to change structurally how you play. I think you're right to call out the pass rush group. L'Jarius Sneed, they made a big investment in bringing him in. I think he's going to have to play big time, and that would then allow Brownlee, who you mentioned, and McCreary, but even the depth of the cornerback room. If they take a single injury at corner, do you like whoever's stepping into whatever spot there's suddenly a vacancy?
Well, and I think all those young corners, every corner needs to play better than they did last year. Sneed, McCreary, and Brownlee.
Yep. So they drafted Marcus Harrison in the 6th round. You got Daryl Baker and a bunch of UDFAs. Now, I think Kevin
Baker got run last year, right? If I'm not mistaken, he played a good bit.
I think Winston's a great add in the 3rd round and potentially a steal based off of what he was before he got hurt last year at Penn State. I think he has the potential to pair quite well with Hooker, and Xavier Woods is that guy who just seems to find the spot and play sturdy, fairly reliable football amidst his limitations as a starter. It's like year 5 of him doing that. So I think they're okay at safety. I'm big time worried about the depth from top to bottom on the depth chart. And you already kind of highlighted the second level of the defense in the middle, and those guys you're banking on Simmons and Sweat and Joseph Day keeping them clean so they could just run to the football. But because of the depth, I do have it graded as a 2.5.
All right. So what's the tally here?
And you had what?
I have it as a 3.
Okay. We both graded it as a 16. 16 is in line with for you, 2022 Kenny Pickett situation. Kenny went 7-5 in starts that year, so by no means a kiss of death. 16 for me was in line with the CJ Stroud 2023 situation. He went 9-6. So, no, it's on the grand scale of like super sexy situations guys have walked into. I think there's a fair floor. I think the fact that you and I, the only thing we dared to go below a 2.5 out of 5 on was the quarterback room for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Cam's wired the right way where like he can mitigate some of that.
Yeah. So
I think there should be reason for, if the injuries break your way, we talked about the depth in a lot of spots. But if the injuries break your way, I think there's reason to think Tennessee, you guys can have a competitive season this year and kind of be the great first chapter of something new.
It's funny, it lands right at an average mark, right? So if you, with 6 categories, 3 is average, 6 times 3 is 18, comes out at basically an 18. And I guess my overarching thought when kind of looking at this, I I think to myself, I'm not overly excited about anything here, but I'm not super concerned about anything either.
Right.
Average.
Yep. So now it becomes how transcendent is that player? Because that was kind of the bucket that the Daniels situation fell in last year as well. So is Cam Ward going to come in and take the league by storm? I'm sure Titans fans would love nothing more, but we'll wait and see. We are going to do Jackson Dart's situation as the other first-round quarterback tomorrow here on the show through the same criteria. So Giants fans, you have that to look forward to. Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino, we are Locked On NFL Scouting. We appreciate you guys for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your Monday. I will talk to you all again soon.